Welcome to Factual. If you're new here, please take a second to hit the subscribe button. It really helps. My name is Ember. I'm an intersex woman of transgender experience, and I also have a background in science and the arts. But on this show, we talk about stories relating to trans and intersex people like me. Mostly. First of all, happy Juneteenth, and it's still Pride Month. So we have a couple of stories relating to that. There's also a healthy dose of human rights, countering conspiracy nonsense, and other topics that get tied up in these issues from time to time, but we'll get to those. Thank you for joining me. Once again, I know 2 days in a row, and 2 days in a row, Alira the Free is beating the opening with gifting 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Alira. Those of you who receive those, enjoy. Be sure to thank Alira, and you get all kinds of. We have so many emojis on this channel, my goodness, and enjoy all of those, but also the member exclusive content and other goodies when I can do them. Things are chaotic. Don't let 2 shows 2 days in a row fool you. I've actually been doing shows all week just on other channels. Oh my goodness. All right, let's get into things. There's a lot to cover today, and I don't know how long I can go. If you know what I thought there'd be a rhyme there. It's fine. Thank you all so much for joining. I see Godless Granny. I see Maya. I'm probably other people that I'm missing. Hello, lurkers. Hello, future people. If you're a future people, subscribe, of course, but also ring the notification bell so you can join us live. The schedule is a little unpredictable these days, so make sure you get those notifications because we'd love to see you in the live chat. All right, enough intro business. First up, this is new today. It actually happened last night, but details. A pro baseball team forfeits their Pride Night game as some players boycott rainbows. So this is a big case of fragile masculinity, right? These are professional athlete sports ball players. They're not like the New York Yankees or the Red Sox. They're a city level team. I believe it's called a AAA league, something like that. I'm not a sports ball type girl, but they are professionals. They are paid to be there, and they're afraid of rainbows. What? So this Pennsylvania-based team, the York Revolution, chose to forfeit their Pride Night home game after a number of players refused to wear a rainbow. The professional team was set to play against the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs. Oh, there's the problem. The crabs are colored. They're blue crabs. And if you're afraid of rainbows, you can't go up against a team with a color in their name. Or maybe it's just a problem with colors. Happy Juneteenth, folks. I actually made a joke about that when I came across the story this morning. I reposted it on a couple of socials saying bets on whether they'll forfeit their game tonight because it's Juneteenth, lest they be thought to be anti-Confederacy. Fragile masculinity. It's so weird. So the night still went ahead. They still had Pride Night, just with no baseball. They did it with a free and fun celebration of recognition and inclusion, just with no game. In a statement, the team said that the Pride event would still go ahead, but anyone with tickets could use them for a future game. Quote, "The decision was not reached lightly," the team spokesperson wrote. "Unfortunately, several of our players have refused to wear the scheduled Pride Night jersey, and the club decided that hosting the event is more important than forcing the players to wear their uniforms and play the game." Now, in fairness, they're right. The fans are much more important than the players. You without fans, you don't have a ball club. So yes, but also I can't think of any other job that comes with a uniform where the employees can just refuse to wear the uniform and keep their jobs. Maybe there's some, but none are coming to my mind. So this is their post from the York Revolution. It's not clear which social this is from since everybody uses blue check marks these days, but whatever. Oh, okay, Instagram. There we go. It's Instagram. Hooray. So, from last night, free pride event, batting practice, tours of the park, music, other activities. And they're auctioning off a York jersey with rainbow sleeves, the year 26, and of course it says Pride. Amazing. It's tempting because it says it's the York Pride instead of the York Revolution. Maybe they should rename the team that. Like, take pride in your team, maybe? Maybe? Maybe I'm silly. It's fine. So in the text, boy, you can write a lot on Instagram when you have a blue check mark, can't you? Whatever. It is with great disappointment and regret that the York Revolution have issued important changes to our 11th annual Pride Night on Thursday, June 18th. This decision was not reached lightly. Unfortunately, a number of our players are too afraid to come out of the locker rooms. If you wore the rainbow, you could come out of the locker room. You can be proud of who you are. You can come out of the locker room. You'll be celebrated. The analogies just write themselves. My goodness. We're deeply troubled and profoundly disappointed by the decisions of these few players. As a result, out of respect for the Pride community and the York community as a whole, the York Revolution has decided that the game on Thursday, June 18th will be forfeited and that Pride Night will continue on as the feature element of the evening at Wellspan Park. So they're having the party anyway, sans baseball. The danger here is that people may realize there's other things you can do with the ballpark than play baseball, and many of them may be much more interesting. We feel that this is the best way to stay consistent with our long-standing partnerships with the Rainbow Rose Center, JLS Automation, and the long list of allies that have always been key partners of the York Revolution's success in York, Pennsylvania. To be clear, this action taken by the players is completely inconsistent with our vision as the most welcoming place in York. Now, I have been through York many times. It's in that area that's sometimes called Pennsyltucky. It's kind of sort of near the capital. It's kind of sort of near Baltimore. So there's blue elements, but it's also kind of rural-ish. And so there's red elements. And so there are parts of York that are very welcoming. One might even say urban. And there's parts of York that are very MAGA flavored, where the manhole covers have been stolen. They don't even have just potholes. Like you can just fall into the road. It's a weird dichotomy. There's a big public cemetery. It's actually really beautiful. They've got like a stone wall all the way around it. It's a low stone wall. It's not meant to keep people out. It's just there to like protect the cemetery from like cars and things. And some of the graves have monuments and whatnot. And certain parts of the cemetery are pristine, and certain parts of the cemetery have the tombstones knocked over and the monuments graffitied. It's a weird mix. So they decided to go ahead. They apologized for the last minute change of plans, and to support the LGBTQIA plus representing partners, they're making a $10,000 donation to the Rainbow Rose Center for support and further their work in making sure the York community is as inclusive as we strive to make Wellspan Park is as inclusive as we strive to make Wellspan Park. And honestly, that's kind of for the best. Like if you've got bigot players on Pride Night, maybe they should stay in the locker room for the protection of the fans. And that's pretty wild. Once again, tonight is Juneteenth. They have another game. Will the players hide in their locker room lest they be thought in favor of the civil rights movement or pro Martin Luther King? Yikes. We'll see how that goes. So please join us for fun and free celebration of recognition and inclusion. Note the people who choose to exclude themselves from the celebration of inclusion, and I'm sure are now whining about it on their own TikToks. Oh, it was kept up. You stayed in the locker room, bestie. Come on now. Come on now. So we will enjoy community, music, and batting practice on the field. And then it says the York Revolution will return to the field at home on Friday, June 19th. So we'll see how that goes. But honestly, I think a lot more people would have a lot more fun at a pride night at a baseball park with music and dancing and community and batting practice. Like, why not? It I don't know, it seems like more fun to me, but c'est la vie, c'est la vie. Hello, all you folks sneaking in. I see Jess, the wonderful, beautiful, delightful Jess, who has a channel also, How to Rule an Asteroid, although you probably already know that by now. She enjoys flustering me, and she flusters me every time she shows up. Trusty Ape is here. Hello, happy Juneteenth. Yay. I know. I'm thrilled. I'm tickled. I know we're doing I confuse the hell out of my viewers because we're doing not the early show that I used to do, but not the late show that I sometimes do. I do the show when I have both availability and ability. Today, those things happen to coincide in the middle of the day, so that's when we're doing the show. It's another good reason to hit the subscribe button. Like Zorcross. I'm sure Zorcross has hit the subscribe button. Probably. Megan Fox says, imagine being scared of people who just exist. Right? Like, oh no, there'll be a bunch of those queers in the stands. I can't play a sports ball game. Armed with bats even. It's so wild. It's so wild. All right. Speaking of wild, we have another thing that's not even remotely pride related, but people say I don't do enough politics on this show, which is weird living in a world where me existing is considered political, but whatever. Here's a fun thing that also crossed my feed this morning. Now you can't actually hear the president because for once he doesn't have a mic, but he's giving the Congressional Medal of Honor to shoot, what's this fellow's name? Dickory. It's Nicholas Dockery, and he's done some cool shit. So this medal was awarded because of bravery and heroism in an engagement in Afghanistan in 2012, where a bunch of Taliban fighters fought his unit and Afghan government units in a village, and it was village fighting. And so there were people hiding in buildings all over the place. There were grenade launchers. There was well, look at that. He finally got it. TLDR. Nicholas Dockery risked his life several times, put himself in direct danger to save the lives of his fellow service members, and so absolutely qualifies for the Congressional Medal of Honor. Why the president gets to bestow that when it's the Congressional Medal of Honor, who the fuck knows? But whatever the case. For those of you who don't know, the Congressional Medal of Honor has snaps on the back of it. You just put the two ends together and you snap them. Like, I don't know, like baby clothes. Like, it's literally short of Velcro, it's the easiest possible fastener. Trump couldn't figure it out, and so he ended up tying it like a shoelace, and we ended up with the Congressional Choker of Honor. But it has snaps. This is everything this man does highlights his astronomical levels of total incompetence at everything. It's unreal. Is it because he's too weak to get the snaps to close? Is it because he sees the obvious way the thing is supposed to be done and says, "No, I know better," and has to do it a different, wrong way with everything he does? I don't get it. But it is still kind of funny, and I feel for I don't know Dr. I read his story, but his story goes through all the different ranks. The last rank that lodged in my brain was captain. It may be a higher rank by now. It probably is. So my apologies there. But he props to him for keeping his eyes straight forward the whole time. Because like it's my goodness. And there's videos flooding around the whole internet showing Biden giving congressional medals of honor out, and he just puts the thing around the person's neck, snaps it, and it's done. Less than 5 seconds. And this is, I mean, it's hilarious, but it's also disgraceful. And I don't know. In another time, a president would be impeached for this. Like, presidents have had impeachment put against them for much less levels of disgrace than this. And this is like the least disgraceful thing he's done just this week. But okay. He's tying it into a knot. All right, enough of that nonsense. We've got other stuff to get to. Even more nonsensier nonsense. Oh yes, we're on topic now. It's everyone's favorite 5th place swimmer, Riley Gaines. And she's here. This is a post on the Twitters from a few days ago. Jameson Daniel posts and writes, MAGA influencer Riley Gaines being told / paid by Patriot Mobile handlers what her sincerely held beliefs are in a leaked video. Mar-a-Lago face is a phenomenon that needs to be studied academically. And of course, I brought you the whole video.
Wait, tell me the pillars again. So it's pro-life.
First Amendment, Second Amendment, sanctity of life, and veteran and first responders.
Okay.
And
First, second. Yep. Cool. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, our veterans, I feel very passionately about. Do you guys, if you're going to talk about, I mean, you hate to even call them political issues, but do you specifically say like the left or the right, or is that something you try to kind of refrain from? Like if I were to say something to the effect of like the left is still doubling down.
Like, just give her a script. My God, I mean, she's not great at reading scripts either. We've seen her try to do an ad read for ivermectin, remember? But just give her a script. You could explain till you're blue in the face, and it's just going to fall right out the other ear. You know, just give her a script. Or cue cards. Cue cards are better. Keep it very simple, you know, like 5 words or less.
yeah, you can say. Okay, I've heard you introduce from the beginning, so.
Okay. First, that's what I needed to figure out really quick is when I first, I mean, definitely over a year though. I would say, can I just say that like around 2 years ago?
It's a shame that we can't hear what the handlers are saying very well. It's like really, really faint in the far background. My goodness. It's Megan Fox says she's an airhead. It doesn't help that she's blonde. Fun fact about that, as I'm sure you've noticed yourself, she's not biologically blonde. That's a lie. She shouldn't be allowed into the little blonde person's restroom. She has mousy brown hair, and no shame to mousy brown hair. That's a perfectly fine hair color, but she's not satisfied with that. She feels wrong about that, and so she participates in procedures to fix it, so she feels better about herself, and that's perfectly fine. But she's not actually blind. My goodness. So yeah, that's the video I forgot to get to yesterday. I wanted to make sure we got to it today. It just It tickles me. Speaking of restrooms, though, here's another story that doesn't actually have to do with Pride Month, Juneteenth, trans people, or intersex people directly, but does have some bearing on the impact those discussions have been having on our society here in the United States. So this is from the Montgomery Advisor. Dad takes daughters into women's restroom. Man in Alabama calls police. What a headline. What a headline. So you may or may not have seen, there's a viral video running around of this, right? So yeah, let's take a look at that. Of course, I brought you the actual video, if the page decides to load. Okay. TikTok, what can you do? I mean, I could download it, but
standing in the doorway of the ladies' bathroom. Okay, my wife, there is a man with his two little girls using the women's bathroom.
Wash your hands, baby.
He is. He's washing his hands with his daughters right now. He is leaving it.
can you imagine calling the police on a man washing his hands? Even if he didn't have the children, like washing your hands in a restroom, how dare? But also, he's escorting his children into the restroom they will be most comfortable in because you prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable person in your group, right? This is why able-bodied people accompany disabled people into the disabled toilet to help them. You go to the bathroom that the person in most need of accommodation needs to use when you have diversified, segregated bathrooms. And that's what this parent is doing. He has small children who would not be safe in the men's room. They would not feel safe in the men's room. And here's a man just making them feel unsafe in the name of protecting women. And this is why this is important, because he's trying to police women's spaces and hurting women, little girls in this case, in the process. He's terrifying these children because he's a big, strong man. It's his job. The women's room is his property, and he gets to decide who goes into it. Apparently, it's not little girls, but he gets to. Unreal.
All right, baby.
She is waiting to use the restroom with her mother, who is very ill
Wash your hands.
and who is on oxygen.
It's okay. Some men are just immature.
And he's refusing. He's taking his sweet time.
I have two girls washing their hands.
You let this lady.
No, this goes on for quite some time, but I want to address something. Sabrina pops in to say, just came to tell you I'm unsubscribing from your channel because you've used transgenderism, and that's incredibly harmful. That is exactly the point. We're talking about why that is harmful today. That's sort of our main story for today. I appreciate you saying why you're unsubscribing. However, I would caveat, maybe find out what you're talking about. Maybe ask some questions rather than jumping to conclusions, and you'll make it a lot farther in life. Just a suggestion, though. You do you, by all means. It's very funny to me. Shortly after I started transition, a flat earther popped up in my side chat saying something similar. I was talking about a flat earth conspiracy theory at the time, and the person said, I don't believe anything you have to say. I just subscribed because I thought you were attractive. But now that you're a woman, you're not my type, so I'm out. And I'm like, okay. People who don't ask questions and jump to conclusions and just, oh, that's the worst possible thing ever. That's kind of what we're here to talk about today. but I do appreciate you saying so we could have this little chat so everybody else understands what's going on here. It's an adventure. All right, so the internet is a fabulous place. It's a fun time. All right. Oh, also one other thing. Since I'm interrupting anyway, Secular Feelinist member for 9 months. Thank you, SF. Appreciate the hell out of that. SF says, "Love to you, Ember, from a newly cracked egg." Fuck yeah. We love. I should do something about the setup because I realized that this goes right across my eyeballs. I'm invisible. Perceive me not. Congrats, SF. I'm so glad you're getting to be yourself finally. Everyone should. Everyone should get to experience. I ranted a little bit about this yesterday. The amount of extra happy that a person gets, or more precisely, the decreased amount of not feeling happy, truly happy with yourself, is so significant that even right now, while I've got harassment, I've got bullies, I've got people deliberately misunderstanding what we're trying to do to serve their own narrative. I get emails every day. I get comments on my posts with all sorts of abusive language. I've got 3 smear campaigns going on at the same time and a stalker. Despite all of that, despite being forced out of my job and living in constant pain from injuries, there is a lot that makes my life kind of hellish. Despite all of that, I'm happier now. And that should tell you how much happier being able to live as yourself can make you. I got some random internet abuse before because you can't be a pro-science advocate on the internet without the creationists and the religion nuts and all these other people coming at you and saying, you're going to burn in hell and all that crap. But now, holy shit. And still, I'm happier. I hope you find that happiness too, everyone deserves to feel good in their own skin. My goodness. All right, so the newspaper says the incident has gone viral on TikTok, shows the father at an Alabama gas station faced with a situation familiar to many parents. His young daughters needed the restroom, but there was no family restroom available. So to be fair to the store, first of all, let's go back to the video. I want to show you a little bit more.
This woman she's a woman. She can bring her daughters in here. She's a manager of the QT.
I'm their
You can
dad.
ask her. I understand. And you don't have any business bringing her into the women's bathroom.
They're girls. They go to the women's bathroom.
As soon as he leaves the women's bathroom, I will. I'm standing in the doorway. He's taking his own sweet time. Hey, sweetheart. This is ridiculous.
So that's the manager. We know her name, Melissa. There it is, Melissa. Amazing. So just the side eye she gives that loud and belligerent man. She handles it calmly. As soon as he gets the hell out of the doorway, she just shuts the door on him. She helps the children. She's there, like, she's keeping everything calm. Absolute legend. But also the way the dad is handling this is he's just setting an example for his kids. This is the right way to do things. We stay calm. We just let the loud man be loud. Like, what lessons are being taught here? Dad is doing the right thing. Dad is trying to keep us safe, but other loud men can be dangerous. They can make you scared. They can make you upset. They can invade your space because they think they're entitled to. It says a lot about the nature of our society. Some men really think women's spaces are their property to be policed by them. To which I say, this is exactly what the TERFs have been trying to do The reason this is an issue now, there's always been this problem, right? Like if you are a male parent and have female children, which bathroom do you use? If you're a female parent with male children, which bathroom do you use? Do you send the child in unobserved? At a certain age, you can, but when they're very small, what do you do if there's no family bathroom? For as long as there have been public bathrooms, people did what was most comfortable for the children. If they wanted their parent there, or if they'd rather go in the wrong bathroom for them. And adults see immediately, they observe what's going on, and this is normal. They just acknowledge this is a good parent, and they get on with their fucking day. For generations, that's how people handled this. They could see with their eyes, or they were capable of asking questions instead of making assumptions, and it was fine. But now, only now, it's become a major problem because of TERFs who've been telling loud, angry religious men that it's their job to invade the women's spaces and enforce patriarchy on the women's spaces. Everyone involved here is a Christian, by the way. We saw the cross on the man's shirt. Melissa goes to, I don't know what church she goes to, but like, this isn't even a religious thing. This is a culture thing that's been made a problem by political partisans. They want to pretend there's Jesus said and God this and Bible that, because they're being taught their politics from the pulpit. Religion isn't a factor here. It's just people behaving like rational adults, taking care of children, and one asshole who wants to be a culture warrior. This is the world the TERFs have built. So hooray. All right, now we're going to take a quick break. But first, I want to point out why transgenderism is on the title. Because transgenderism is a dog whistle. It is a term that's used to try to turn people into an ideology, as it says in the description of this video. So if you looked at anything anywhere, you would know we're addressing why this is a harmful term. That is the point of this video. And it's exactly analogous to the people who say the term evolutionist. I pulled this off of social. Don't at me about the fact that it's generated AI. It was a handy thing I found on a social. I did not generate this. Creationists use the term evolutionist to try to turn the science of biology, the fact of evolution, into an ideology. It's evolutionism. And now we can debate it, we can disagree, we can wrestle with it on a philosophical basis. It's not facts, it's an ideology. The same thing is done with transgender. If we make it transgenderism, now we're not talking about people, we're talking about an ideology that can be endlessly debated. People who use that term are dog whistling. A dog whistle, for those of you who do not know or may have forgotten, and in fairness, a lot of people may not know, every video is somebody's first video. A dog whistle is when you use a politically loaded term with a hidden meaning in order to seem innocuous and have plausible deniability as simply ignorant to people who aren't in the know, but people on your own team understand exactly what you're saying. For instance, the term global elite. On the surface, it seems like you're talking about geopolitical entanglements, possibly international trade policies or something. The globalists. I'm for nationalism because entanglements with other countries cause problems. But in reality, that's a cover word for an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that's been around for a very long time. The bridge between the two principles is the idea that this globalist agenda is being set by the Jews who control all the world banking systems. So by saying the globalists, you're referring to that conspiracy theory that the Jews control all the world finances, which in turn refers back all the way back to the turn of the 20th century with the protocols of the elders of Zion and the blood libel and the great replacement and all of it. It's all entailed, but it's hidden behind that seemingly innocuous term, globalist elite. That is a dog whistle. That's what that means. You're telling your side what you're talking about, but you're seeming innocent to the other side. Perhaps a little ignorant, perhaps a little naive, but it's not clear to a person who isn't in the know what you're actually talking about. Exactly the same thing here. There actually used to be a scientific journal called the Journal of Transgenderism. They changed the name because people started using the term as a dog whistle. It is a dog whistle. It is harmful. It is meant to delegitimate people and make it more socially acceptable to debate the existence of people. Exactly the same way they used to debate the Jewish question. So that's why. Now, we're going to get into that in just a moment. But first, a quick break from our sponsor. And since it's still Pride Month, that sponsor is still me. In 2024, NASA researcher Rachel Lenz gave the world a flag made from NASA images for Pride Month. On January 20th, 2025, the incoming U.S. administration ordered that Artistic Union of Science and Civil Rights deleted. So I tracked down the original images it was made from, recreated it, and then added even more wonders of the cosmos to update the flag to the current, more inclusive form. On the anniversary of the inauguration, I released it. And it went viral several times. Now you can get a physical copy of that artwork as a full-sized flag or a large sticker, as well as space artworks of the other Pride flags: lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, intersex, ace, and new flags being added all the time. Get one for yourself or give them as gifts and celebrate Pride, celebrate science, celebrate resistance, and help support a creator fighting for human rights for all humans. Head to astralpride.com. And of course, we have more goodies now. I made this several months ago. In fact, tomorrow will be the fifth month anniversary of the release of that flag. And it's gone viral several more times during Pride Month, of course. But now, not only do we have a bunch more flags, but we've got that main flag. First of all, there's another primary Progress Pride flag made of my own nature photos. The Space Pride flag was made from public domain NASA photos. The Nature Pride flag is made from my own nature photos because I used to be a nature photographer. And it was pretty neat. And as it turns out, I have more than enough in my inventory to make the flag look exactly how I wanted, and I really like it. So I hope you check that out too over on astralpride.com, even though it's not astral. However, Earth is still a planet, so stuff on Earth counts. Haha. Loophole. But also we have clothing. We have mask cut shirts and femme cut shirts and dresses, and most of all, most importantly, hoodies, because people in our community really love hoodies. I know it's the wrong time of year to sell hoodies, but we do have them. So I hope you check it out. I hope you enjoy, because like I mentioned earlier, we're very quickly approaching the anniversary of me being forced out of my job and being disabled because I was hurt at work and other things. And so what I can do on the internet is the entirety of my income. This channel, what sales we can make through Astral Pride, stuff like that. If you want to help support what I'm doing, I very much appreciate it. You can gift memberships like Alira just did. Thank you so much, Alira. It's 10 more memberships. Enjoy all the fun custom emojis and all the other perks. But also, there's Patreon, patreon.com/betterthenumber. If you want to be like a monthly supporter, YouTube takes 30% of all the stuff that you send here. I appreciate it, but YouTube takes a big old cut. Patreon takes less of a cut. Or if you don't want to do a monthly thing, there's one-time options, a bunch linked in the description, but Cash App and Venmo are both right there on the bottom. However, as much as I do appreciate donations to, afford food and things, there's also a fundraiser we're doing right now for a friend, Miranda, who's been dealing with a lot of surgeries in the past couple of weeks, and the medical bills are piling up. So if you would like to learn more about Miranda's struggle and help her with that, that's linked in the side chat. It's pinned and also in the description below. So I can always use the help, but I'm okay for right now. Miranda needs help. So, bear that in mind. And thank you for, whatever you can give, whatever you can do, however you can support. Even if you don't have money, like myself, very poor, the share button is free for both the fundraiser and for this channel. Whatever you can do, very much appreciate it. Okay. So, transgenderism. Many of you are already familiar with Pastor Vlad. He's a Pentecostal fundamentalist preacher who has some interesting ideas, including today he's going to wonder if a certain other God is behind trans people existing, I guess. This should be fun. So here we go.
There's 5 causes for this rapid onset gender dysphoria. The first one.
Okay, record scratch already. Rapid onset gender dysphoria is another term related to this whole ideological spectrum. It was a phrase coined by discredited former researcher Lisa Littman in a retracted paper where she spoke to anti-trans parents of trans children and not the trans children, and determined based on the anti-trans parents that their children were perfectly fine one day and were trans the next. Almost like children who knew their parents were anti-trans never talked to their children or never talked to their parents about being trans or something. But it was a deliberately biased study that basically just made itself an ad hoc justification for how people already felt about things. It was not just useless in scientific terms, but kind of showed that there's not only no legitimate basis for this concept, but the basis for the concept is so weak, evidence has to be fabricated to pretend there's any at all. So there's that. We're starting off on the amazingly right foot. Debunked pseudoscience. Great start, Val. Let's go.
It's a trend or a phenomena. The other reason.
Okay, so this is one reason put forward, one explanation put forward. It's a trend. Again, talking about gender dysphoria. It's a trend. Sort of like how being left-handed is a trend. More people suddenly became left-handed when left-handed people stopped being punished for being left-handed. You could be the cool kid and be left-handed. Just be left-handed. Just choose to be left-handed. That's not how anything works. But it's easier to dismiss a true thing about cultural change by calling it a trend. You just say, oh, they're just trying to get on the bandwagon. Ha!
Reason is social media. The third reason.
The second reason is social media. How is that a reason? How is that an explanation? It could be an explanation for how the proposed trend spreads. It's one mechanism for how the trend happens. But is it a mechanism in and of itself? And also, what does that mean? I mean, you can't go to any social media, none of them, and find any trans-related post without an endless parade of bots saying horrible things about trans people. So what do you mean, social media?
Is the chance to gain power.
Number 3, chance to gain power against parents. I stopped in mid-sentence because he's moving awfully fast and I didn't want to miss it while it was on screen. What does that mean? How does a child being trans gain power over parents? Maybe there's some rationale behind it. Charitably, maybe there is, but it sounds an awful lot like Vlad is just throwing out buzzwords and phrases that don't actually mean anything. Maybe he'll substantiate some of them. We'll find out.
over parents. The fourth reason is a chance to gain. She uses this two-story.
I don't know what the hell happened there. That was wild. We just jumped ahead a lot.
In our culture right now, it's a trend. It's a big deal. And me even doing this video, there's high chance or popularity. Because
Okay, now we're back where we were. Chance to gain peer recognition and popularity. What? Oh my goodness. Have you seen how trans people are treated in the US right now? Like, take, for example, the person we were talking about yesterday, AB Hernandez, 4-time state champion in California in girls track. That's a chance to get peer recognition, but I wouldn't exactly call it popularity because she's been winning in her sport. She's become the focus of the entire group of transphobes' ire in the state of California and beyond. I suppose infamy might be considered a form of popularity, but it doesn't exactly make your life easier.
you don't get popular for being a normal kid, but if you stand out or you come out or become proud trans, you can become popular nowadays. You can become a
Can you? Citation needed, my friend.
poster boy or a poster girl for that movement. And the fifth reason is coping mechanism for trauma, social maladjustment.
Coping mechanism for trauma. Now, this is one that comes up a lot. It's always the assertion, whatever something about you, it's because of unhealed childhood trauma. Whatever it is, we don't have any data to link the thing to the other thing. We can just assert, have you had a childhood trauma? And if you're alive in the United States right now, the answer is yes. So no matter what the thing is that the person is trying to discredit, they can just go, oh, well, you had a childhood trauma. As it happens, I came out to my grandmother before my very first childhood trauma, at least one that I can remember, something of social significance, of psychological or emotional significance. Maybe someone dropped me as a baby, and that counts as a childhood trauma. But the very first time I had any kind of significant trauma, anything essay related or other more severe words, was around the age of 5. I came out to my grandmother a little bit before my 3rd birthday. I shouldn't have to justify who I am in that way. I shouldn't have to be able to provide evidence to show that it's not childhood trauma. But the fact I can is kind of devastating to this kind of bullshit argument. Because once again, even if you do come out after you experience a childhood trauma, there's no causal link here. There's nothing showing that the one thing causes the other. Did Vlad decide to become a Pentecostal because of childhood trauma?
Now, in our culture right now, it's a trend. It's a big deal. And me even doing this video, there's high chances of it getting banned or demonetized or completely removed because there
81,000 views 2 years ago. Still up. The Christian persecution complex is unreal, but okay.
there's, as of right now, at least 27 LGBTQI2S plus days of observance listed by Gender and Sexuality Campus Center at Michigan State University, meaning where you observe different awareness.
I wonder how he's counting. Is it just specific things or is it total days? Because if you're going to count Pride Month, that's 30 days right there. But I don't know. Whatever. Cool. We're getting days on a calendar. We're getting observances. Tell you what, ask the average Wokey, when is Intersex Day of Visibility? When is Asexual Awareness Week? The fact these things exist doesn't mean they're actually celebrated. Happy Juneteenth, by the way. That's a thing that still not enough people actually celebrate, and we really should.
Weeks and different awareness days, visibility days, like you saw what President Joe Biden did on Easter, where he, publicly just announced that again, hey, this is a trans visibility day. Now
once again, for those who've missed it in the years since, trans visibility is always on the same day. Easter moves around. Trans visibility has been observed for over a decade. Easter happened to fall on the same day that year.
There's a Lesbian Visibility Day, International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia, the Agender Pride Day, Pansexual Day, LGBTQ Pride Month, and then there is the Pulse Night of Remembrance and Stonewall,
which we did just pass, incidentally, this past week. I believe it's June 16th. See, I'm a bad advocate. I don't have all these dates memorized myself. But yeah, the Pulse nightclub is arguably as meaningful as Stonewall, because it shows here we are a decade since Pulse happened, and public sentiment has gotten more violent towards the LGBTQ plus community generally.
Riot anniversary and non-binary awareness week, and I mean it's just so forth and so on, so much celebration, so much support that's happening in our culture, and it's like the new cool thing that is taking place in our culture.
So much celebration, so much. Oh my goodness, I wish okay, Vlad's channel 2.4 million subscribers, my channel 2.4K subscribers, and that's a rounding error. His channel is literally 1,000 times more supported. But tell me more about how trans people get all the support.
Now, for me as a Christian and also a pastor of a local church here in Tri-Cities, Washington, I want to address this from both the spiritual and religious point of view. But first, I want to highlight that transgenderism was...
What's the difference between spiritual and religious? Side note, I know, but inquiring minds want to know. All right, transgenderism was classified as a mental disorder. Now it's time for our first fact check. So I have here a doctoral thesis published by a researcher from UC Irvine about the history of the medical side of trans healthcare. Where did these terms come from? When were they put into use? And so on and so forth. And as it turns out, let's see, right here, the 1980s, when transsexuality became an official mental disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 3. So it's true that transsexuality, which is not quite the same thing as transgender, but whatever, was classified as a mental disorder in one specific academic context, and for a reason. It's true that it was, and it no longer is. However, it may surprise you to know that it wasn't until the 1980s when that happened. Prior to that, it was not considered a mental disorder. I wonder what happened in the 1980s. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with why we have a black stripe on this flag. All right, back to Vlad.
Was classified as mental disorder. In fact, the news just broke out where in Peru, trans people are officially classified as mentally ill.
So we covered that in, oh goodness, I was still doing transpositions shows at the time. That was a political decision in opposition to the medical professionals in the country. It was a culture war thing. And we see this in every country. Transphobes today really like to talk about how some countries are reversing course. but they're doing it against medical advice. It's always right-wing reactionary political maneuvering, not changes in the medical consensus driving that. So, and that's exactly what happened there. Also worth noting, a disorder is not the same as an illness. But that's a topic for another time.
I'm not saying this to gloat. I'm not saying this to point a finger or to make fun of somebody who is transgender. But the World Health Organization until 2019 classified transgender identity under the umbrella of mental disorders. Since 2022, it's now reclassified it under gender incongruence under sexual health rather than mental disorder.
Right. It's almost like when we learn more things, we update our science. But that's a thing that creationist types have a problem with. And just like creationist types, remember, young Earth creation is a conspiracy theory. It's people saying the Bible is true first and full stop, and everything else is an ad hoc justification. The Bible is literally true. The Earth is 6,000 years old, all of that crap. The science that says otherwise, it's all lies. The science is trying to lie to everyone for some reason, which usually goes back to Satan or demonic entities. The same is true of flat Earth. The claim is that NASA is lying to everyone about the shape of the Earth for some conspiracy-flavored reason. It's not just pseudoscience, it is a conspiracy theory. Transphobia is exactly the same. There's an allegation being made that these updates to science that show us more, that advance our medical applications to improve health and better outcomes, are the result of a conspiracy. Every medical organization on Earth is lying to everyone for some reason. And Vlad really puts the tail on the donkey with this one because of the video title, is this deity behind the rise of transgenderism. Vlad is a Pentecostal. To him, other gods are real, but they're not gods. They're actually demons. He's literally saying there is a conspiracy controlling all of medical science, saying trans people are real and the proper treatment is to transition, is a conspiracy run by literal demons. And we're supposed to take this point of view seriously. We should hurt people, ruin their lives, physically harm them, make it impossible for them to, live like a free person in a civil society, because Vlad has a conspiracy theory about fucking demons. And this, friends, is why even when we try to focus on secular humanism and we try to focus on real needs of real people, religion keeps getting dragged back into the debate because people are using religion to justify all of this bullshit. Flat Earth is generally harmless. Individual people might be jerks, but they're ruining their own lives, and that's about it. They get obsessed with their conspiracy theory, like Chris from Westchester County, whose wife apparently hates him now. That's not great. That's not optimal. We don't love to see it. But for the broader public, they're mostly harmless. Transphobes, on the other hand, are actively trying to hurt people, either in general terms, like Vlad, we need to ban this healthcare, people need to survive, or individual people, like the people running smear campaigns right now, or my newest stalker, whose main effort is to try to hurt me specifically.
Psychiatric Association, APA, published Diagnostic and Manual of Mental Disorders, and until 2013, it was characterized as gender identity disorder. So transgenderism was under gender identity disorder.
Now, again, remember, even though these things, first of all, a disorder, anxiety is a disorder. Does that mean a person is mentally ill necessarily, or that they're suffering from a treatable condition? Like there's certain stigmas that get associated with these terms and these words. When a person has a disorder, it means that there's something going on often a stressor rather than a defect within themselves that's keeping them from living a full, productive, happy life. It can be a lot of different things, but it isn't the same as a mental illness.
Now, since 2013, because of all the pressure, it's been renamed as gender dysphoria, focusing more on the distress that comes with having different identity from your gender. So we
No. I appreciate that Vlad is making at least a cursory attempt to try to seem to care about the correct terminology, but to be clear, gender dysphoria is not having a different identity from your gender. It's having a gender identity that's different from what was assumed about you. And even that isn't necessarily a direct relationship because a lot of trans people don't experience gender dysphoria, and almost all cis people do. It's a misalignment between how you perceive yourself and how you perceive others should perceive you. This is why men get hair transplants and women get boob jobs, because of gender dysphoria. They feel like the body they have doesn't fit their idea of who they should be as a function of how their gender relates to the rest of society.
see already that is not something that is healthy, it's something that is not healthy. That's even according to our medical classifications. Now, in
Our former medical classifications, because again, they have been updated. And also, if you go back and look, like we just saw with the whole mental illness thing, that was done fairly recently and for political reasons. So it's the idea that being an LGBT person, that being a trans person is a mental illness, that is itself new. Trans people, LGBT people have existed publicly for decades before then and in secret for centuries before that. And no one called it a mental illness until some politically minded people decided to stick some psychologists between people and the medical treatment they needed.
culture, it's not a mental disorder anymore. It's actually celebrated as a form of diversity. And people who identify as transgender are given the same place of recognition, celebration, sympathy, compassion as minorities, Black,
This minority group is given the same recognition as minorities. Do you read these scripts, Vlad? What? So what he's trying to say is that trans people, even though he used the word transgenderism because he can't help but dog whistle, is that trans people are given the same place of honor as Black people and immigrants and, every left-handed people, women, the Irish. Yeah, that's not exactly a place of honor. We have been a bit more inclusive in recent years, but that's why there's a culture war backlash. It's not like you become a trans person, you come out as a trans person, and suddenly your channel has, 2.4 million subscribers. I've been out for a little between 2 and 3 years. At first, I lost a lot of subscribers. I lost about half my audience within the first couple of months. Turns out there's not that much celebration, even in the secular community.
Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, or Russians, or Ukrainians, whatever minority that is out there today. You see, bathroom laws are being adjusted. States
Ukrainians are only a minority in countries that aren't the Ukraine. Russians are only a minority outside of Russia. So this is kind of locationally specific minoritarianism, I guess.
states like Colorado and Oregon, cities like New York City allow for transgender people to use bathrooms matching their
Oh, cities like New York City allow transgender people to use bathrooms? What madness is this? What world do we live in?
gender identity. So you can be a guy and go to a women's bathroom. Housing laws are being adjusted as well. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity.
What's the problem, Vlad? You can come out as a trans person or a gay person for that matter and not be discriminated against in housing. What's the issue with that exactly? Are you saying that people should be discriminated against, or are you mad that there's equality, as if having some specific thing actually be equal is somehow extra rights? What is the argument here?
Employment laws that Title VII bans sexual discrimination, interpreted by some courts to include sexual orientation and gender identity. But religious employers,
Some courts includes the Supreme Court, specifically Obergefell and Bostock, as we talked a little bit about yesterday. I won't get into it now, but some courts that he just kind of casually brushes aside include the Supreme Court of the United States.
have some exemptions, at least for now. Educational laws, the Title IX prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in public schools. And to some degree, it's good. We need to treat people with respect and dignity.
I'm so glad he said that. Let's see if he sticks to it, though. But he is also correct that Title IX does prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex and gender identity. Right now, we have this weird separate but equal situation in a lot of public schools because the culture is not on board with desegregation on a sex basis quite yet. Maybe we'll get there, but it's likely to take a while. But you can't discriminate on the basis of sex or gender under Title IX. The Supreme Court ruled on that. What the Trump administration is doing right now in trying to force discrimination on the basis of gender or sexual orientation is a violation of Title IX. But under a fascist regime, everything is upside down. War is peace, law is criminality, reflecting pools are swamps, all that stuff.
But what we have to understand is, amongst this idea that transgenderism, homosexuality, all kinds of various sexual expressions, they're just diverse way of people expressing themselves. Behind all of that is a framework that is a secular worldview that divides people into two parts.
Now, this is a little bit of a misdirect. He's trying to lead into the religion at this point. Behind understanding human rights is a secular worldview. What he means by secular is atheist, but that's not how that works. Remember, the term secular was coined by St. Augustine in The City of God. How he's talking about in our churches, we have to be concerned with the rules of heaven, but in our cities, our human cities, the cities of men, we have to be concerned with being good citizens to each other. Because Augustine lived in a cosmopolitan era where there were many people from many cultures with many languages and many beliefs. And he understood that in order to live together, we have to treat each other fairly, regardless of place of origin, religion, etc. It was probably the wisest thing Augustine ever said. It was a Christian who came up with the idea of secularism. And most secular people today are Christian, at least in the English-speaking world. It's the idea that no matter what your denomination is, or even if you're a member of another religion, we treat each other with respect and equal rights. Most Christians understand this is a necessary thing to have a functioning civilization, because if you make it okay to discriminate against anybody for any identity-based reason, you yourself become vulnerable to identical discrimination when someone else holds the power. Nobody wants that, so everybody stands against it. It's very simple, but we want to make it out like by being secular, you're against God's will. And that's not even what it's about.
According to Percy, a former agnostic, in her book Love Thy Body, she talks about how the secular worldview wrongly divides humans into body and person. She uses this two-story concept. The body is the lower, and the person, your mind and your soul, is the upper. Only the
So this is sort of a reflection of some ideas in entry-level philosophy or introductory psychology. The idea that there's the lizard brain and the advanced human linguistic, critical thinking, mathematics brain. Or in the other dimension, there's the subconscious, the animal part of the brain, and the consciousness, the decision-making rational part of the mind. This is not a remotely new idea.
upper story matters. It's the place where your mind and your emotions are. And these two, upper and lower, meaning your mind and your body, are pretty much separated. And Persley, she argues that the two-story theory is wrong and our human bodies have value in and of themselves.
Well, that's true, but the conclusion isn't entailed from the initial premise. Our bodies do have value. We kind of need them for us to live in. Who's arguing they don't? Like, what kind of weird straw man is this?
Pretty much like, hey, my body doesn't matter. I can change it. It has very little value. That's why we
No. There's a big difference between my body doesn't matter and I can change it. You may have noticed that, like, when a person has an actual disease, like cancer, we change it. We alter the body to improve health and, keep them alive and things. And this isn't just for life-threatening things either. Like if a person has a severe discomfort, like eczema, we give them medicines to treat their condition so they can live a happier, healthier life. They're changing their body just to make the person inside happy. It's not because we don't value our bodies, but because we do. People wear glasses so they can see better, not because they don't value their bodies, but so they can fucking live.
Kill babies. That's why we say, hey, you can change your gender and all of that stuff. But what really matters
Now he's delving hard into politics here. Kill babies. So he's a pro-life person, and he thinks that women having the right to bodily autonomy equals dead babies. It's another non sequitur. It doesn't connect. He has an argument that tries to make it connect, but that's not the topic today. He just wants to vice signal to his audience about his stance on this unrelated political issue. But it is kind of related because it deals with bodily autonomy. And that's what he has the problem with. Do you have the right to control of your own body? His central thesis is you do not. You must do what he says. So there's that. But for the record, you don't change your gender. You stop pretending to be the gender you're not as your understanding of yourself improves. Just like with science, when we learn more, we change what's in our science books. We update things. That's the point of learning. That's the use of that human superior conscious mind. We do better.
is what's happening here in my head. Biblical view is very different on this, and we're going to address that in just a moment. The Bible denounces transgenderism as deviation from God's original design.
This should probably go without saying. The Bible doesn't say a damn thing about transgender people, let alone transgenderism. You have to reach really, really far to find anything remotely related to trans people. Some people use a passage about a man wearing a woman's cloak or something like that to be some kind of twisted prohibition on cross-dressing, but that's not the same thing at all. Even if that's what we're about. But also, there's that whole thing where Paul says that a person should, do lower surgery in order to be a better servant to God. Now, a lot of people point out that a eunuch is not the same thing as a trans woman, and that's what Paul was talking about. However, a eunuch is a different, distinct gender under Jewish tradition at the time. There were people who were born androgynous and people made androgynous by human action as 2 of the 8 genders that were recognized under Jewish law. And they had to be because there were so many people in both of those groups that they had to have considerations for what happens with inheritance law, what happens with social interactions, what rituals do they have to participate in, what temple duties do they have. So they developed it. You've got man, woman, androgynous by natural action, androgynous by human action, and then trans, male to female. They have a word for it, but for easy communication right now, trans, male to female, both by human action and by natural action, because that happens often enough it had to be written about too, and vice versa, female to male, through human action or by natural action. So, yeah.
So we see that the health organizations call it dysphoria. We see the culture celebrates it as a diversity. It's just a different expression because their worldview separates body and the mind, but
Well, it's a different experience, and it's not because the worldview separates body and the mind. That's not an entailment of a secular position or an atheist position or even a science-centered position. It's one model for understanding the difference between what we call the consciousness and the subconsciousness. That's all that is.
a little bit deeper than that. If we look at the scriptures, we see that it's a deviation from God's original design. In the
Do we? Because remember, folks, God's original design was just a man. He just made Adam. And then he realized he fucked up because the perfect God is so prone to error. And he had to create Eve after the fact out of a rib or the side of Adam. So God's original design apparently was an asexual agender being, or maybe he was supposed to be gendered, but he forgot about the necessity for reproduction, assuming he wasn't just going to poof more people into being. But that's another story.
beginning pages of the scripture, we see in Genesis 1 and 2 that God created 2 distinct genders that complement each other, and they become one flesh, producing.
Well, no, he created 2 distinct sexes that are capable of reproduction, not necessarily complementing each other. And the whole one flesh thing is kind of a euphemism, but that's neither here nor there.
Children. Jesus supports this view in his teaching on divorce, stating that God made them male and female. So he attributes someone's identity to their gender, male and female.
No. That's Vlad is a pastor, but so am I. That's not what Jesus was talking about. He didn't say anything about gender. Vlad is presupposing and layering his own worldview over what Jesus said. This is a thing, I always forget the term, if it's eisegesis or exegesis, but it's when you take your modern day views and layer them over the Bible to pretend the Bible is saying something other than what it is. Male and female, not the same as gender, as we understand it in today's culture. And it's not the way they understood it in the 1st century either.
Transgenderism is really all about identity. It's about individuals whose sex at birth is different from what they know to be on the inside. Now, Paul in Romans chapter.
There's stuff wrong with what he said there, but I'm interrupting a lot. I just want to point out that I saw him, but it's not actually worth addressing. We'd be repeating ourselves a lot.
Chapter 1, verses 18 through 32 says that humans knew the truth about God and chose to suppress it and worship idols, leading.
This has nothing to do with anything. This is the whole everyone knows God is true and some people suppress the truth in their unrighteousness passage. Similarly, everyone knows the truth of Nil, the great not God and creator of creator gods, which is where creator gods come from. It's right in the name, and it answers that question, where did the creator God come from? Nil. Everyone knows the truth of nil. It's presupposed. It's baked into all these creator God mythologies. So everyone knows about nil. It's right. I mean, hell, they talk about it in Latin, creation ex nihilo, right? So everyone knows the truth of nil, but people like Vlad suppress that truth in their unrighteousness. If you would like, nil emojis, you can have those. They're the most affordable level of membership is just 99 cents a month, and it gets you the emojis, all the emojis, including nil. And if all you want is emojis, and some people do, that level is available for you. If you want all the extra goodies, there's higher levels with different perks. But if you just want emojis, 99 cents is an easy way to support the channel. You also get that cool badge next to your name for every month. I digress.
God to let them follow their own sinful desires, including committing homosexual acts. So Paul, in that whole Romans chapter 1, talks about the fact that people are without excuse as they knew about God, and that humans are made in God's image and because...
Right, but that's what Paul says, kind of. But again, he's asserting his own views over what the text actually says. Like, you have to do some creative reinterpretation to make it out like Paul is talking about homosexuality when he's just not. But by the same token, Vlad knows about the truth of nil, and nil doesn't give a fuck what you do. You may as well be happy. Because nil just creates creator gods. Nil, who outranks Vlad's creator god as the creator of the creator gods, doesn't really have an opinion.
Because they suppress the knowledge of God, it distorts their self-identity. Transgenderism is seen as suppressing God's knowledge by denying his existence.
There's a whole lot of trans people who are Christian or who believe in other gods. This is not an entailment. You don't have to suppress knowledge of God. There's a whole lot of trans people running around saying things like, "This is how God made me." We covered a pastor in a city that's nearby me a few months ago who said effectively just that from the pulpit. That's not exactly denying God, is it?
Rules on sexual behavior don't matter. This results in a distorted view of human identity. It represents human pride in trying to suppress God's wisdom, which Paul in 1 Timothy...
Wait, where do we get God's wisdom from? I've read the Bible. It's not in there. There's just a lot of praise me, light the incense the right way. Here's instructions for how to sacrifice a sheep. Do as I say or I'll destroy you. There's not a lot of wisdom in there. There's nothing about here's how you set a broken bone, or here's how you build a power plant. What are you talking about? My goodness. What I'm talking about is Alira the Free gifting 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Alira. Again, cool emojis, bunch of perks. I hope you enjoy. I hope you become permanent members. And thank you, Alira.
3:6 says led to the devil's fall. Thus, the transgender movement reflects Satan's pride. When we reject God...
Wait. Being trans reflects Satan's pride? Because the word pride is used in the English translation of that passage. I've never heard it broken down that way, and it's so fucking silly. So to be clear, pride as in arrogance and hubris cometh before a fall is a relational thing to why the devil fell, because he, in his MAGA-like arrogance, thought he would do a better job ruling than the people who actually know how to do the government thing, except in heaven. And it didn't work out so well for him. So pride goeth before fall. That's an equivocation, which is when you take the same word and use it to mean two different things. You switch the meaning of the word mid-sentence. It's not just a fallacy, it's a deliberate deception technique. And Pride, in the case of Pride Month, which isn't even specifically about trans people, we have to fight to be included lately. Holy shit. That is pride as in the opposite of shame. People like Vlad, who try to shame us, we reject that with pride. That's all that means.
As our creator who made us male and female, we now have to redefine our own identity because we don't want to receive his gift. We don't see it as a gift.
So, first of all, your gender isn't necessarily the same as your sex. There's a whole lot of other options, but you're not. It isn't just male and female. Male and female have nothing to do with gender, but it isn't just male and female either. Intersex people exist. Like me. We're at least as common as redheads, probably more so. It's pretty likely a lot more so. Now, there are, as I often seem to have to say, a lot of intersex people who are also trans, but not all of us are. But God made us intersex. If God's doing the making of people the way he insists, you can't have it more, this is natural, this is what God intended, if you want to phrase it that way, than a baby being born that way. Like they come out and the doctors go, huh? What do you mean, Vlad?
Gift. We see it as something that is to be tormented by, this thing that I'm trapped in the male body, but I feel differently. And because we live in a culture that celebrates any kind of deviation and any kind of
do we celebrate deviation? Do we? That's a suspect claim. Also, the pause face right now. C'est magnifique. I should have made this the thumbnail.
diversity, even though that's not diversity, that's completely coming against logic and science, yet
How? Citation needed. First of all, diversity doesn't mean in line with logic and science, but also science shows us that trans and intersex people do exist and are valid. So you can't just say it's against logic and science when your position, Mr. Creation-y pastor, is against logic and science.
this culture celebrates that. Why? Because our culture reflects the majority of people who, while they know God, they suppress the truth about God, and then they kind of have a messed up identity. The Bible gives us path for.
So I guess he's trying to invent an explanatory mechanism. People become trans because they're suppressing the truth about God, even if they're still Christians. But what about the people who are listening to that inner voice that Vlad might call the Holy Spirit whispering in their ear, that presence of the divine within themselves? And it's saying, this is wrong. What about that?
For transformation, and that is through the renewal of the mind. So as a human being born in sin, I'm most likely going to have some pretty weird ideas about my sexuality, about my identity.
Oh, for sure, Vlad, you definitely have some strange ideas about sexuality and a whole bunch of other stuff. I agree with you there.
About the world. Why? Because everything about me is messed up. So
he said it. I didn't say it. He said it. I don't think Vlad is messed up. I don't know him well enough to know if he's doing like so many large apologists and is just deliberately lying to solicit, support, sell books, whatever the case may be. Or if he legitimately believes it, or if he believes part of it, but he's selling the culture war stuff to support the God's word stuff. I don't know. But I don't believe that he's coming at it from a place of being messed up. Maybe that's just my hunch. Maybe it's just my own personal philosophy that we should try to lead with grace, disagree, educate, but don't jump to conclusions and don't assume bad intent. Maybe he does have bad intentions, but we don't know that. Maybe some of you do, and I just haven't seen it myself, and that's fair. But I'm not going to jump to a conclusion because he identifies with a group of people who are dishonest people working to try to hurt everyone. He could have just drunken the Kool-Aid and really believe this stuff and really believe that hurting people, taking away their rights, and forcing them to live in a way that is harmful is somehow good for them spiritually. He could believe that. Though that's arguably kind of messed up too, but details.
So I am not surprised when I see people that have messed up thinking and also just kind of trying to figure out their way and making a lot of mistakes and sometimes permanent mistakes.
Yeah, it's weird how people make a lot of mistakes, sometimes permanent mistakes, when they have messed up thinking. But who's deciding which thinking is messed up? What's your objective standard, Pastor Vlad? Because a lot of people, including a lot of Christians, might suspect that, as you yourself said, your thinking is messed up.
To their body through hormone therapy and through gender reassignment surgery. But you must understand that's not God's original.
Reconstructive surgery is a thing that was invented for cis people, and most of those surgeries are still performed on cis people. Trans people taking advantage of the same surgery that cis people need for the same reason is not messed up. It literally follows
Design. When you become a Christian, when you give your life to Jesus Christ, when he fills you with the Holy Spirit, biblical way of changing you is through the renewal of the mind. So instead,
cool. If the Holy Spirit can enter my body, and you know what? Screw gender. Fix all the broken bits. Fix the strictures and adhesions and damage from the harm that was done to me last year over the preceding year. Maybe I might just believe if you can pull off a miracle like that, that would be pretty impressive. I'm just saying. But also, if it wanted to fix the other things too, that would be really great. My goodness. The fact is, that doesn't happen. It never happens. But if Vlad opens his mind, he might find his perspective changing quite a bit. One other change is a super chat from Alira the Free, as opposed to memberships. I appreciate this as well. Alira sends us 55 Turkish. What is it again? Turkish lira? I want to say lira. I'm pretty sure it's lira. I could be wrong though. Alira says, Ember, thank you for everything you do. I have to bow out and catch a night bus, but I'm grateful. Have a wonderful show. Take care, everyone. Ta-ta. Thank you for coming, Alira. I always appreciate your presence, your support, your music. You know what? As it happens, Alira wrote a song, well, more than one song for us. I don't know if I have the longer song here in my video clips, but I do have the shorter one. So let's play that for a quick musical interlude.
Like the flag, me hearties, hoist your own at astralpride.com. Pride on the mast, chaos on the sea. The queer pirate fleet sails fabulous and free. Heave, girls, heave. Heave, girls, heave.
Neat stuff, right? So thank you, Alira. All right, continuing on.
instead of changing your gender identity to match your biology, meaning match your birth sex, what we want to do is actually change our biology to match our gender identity. See, that's what culture does. But the Bible,
No, that's what medicine does. But yeah, you can't change your brain So you have to change your body. We've tried it. We've tried treating being a different kind of person as if it's a psychological condition to be remedied. We've tried treating left-handed people. We've tried treating gay people. We've tried treating trans people, and it never works because it's part of who you are, not something broken in your mental understanding of yourself. We've tried antipsychotics. We've tried psychotherapy. We've tried talk therapy. We've tried conversion therapy, which is literally just torture. None of it works because it's not a psychological condition. You know what does work? Transition. Yeah. It's weird how being who you are makes your life suck less. Who would have guessed?
teaches us differently. The Bible says that as a believer, now, if you're not a believer, this might kind of be difficult to swallow because you're like, no, I don't want to change my mind. I just want to go and cut out completely working organs in my body because I feel so conflicted inside of me. I feel so broken and I feel so confused inside of me. But the
No, we don't feel broken and we don't feel confused. And also, perfectly working organ. What? Is he aware that many people choose to sterilize themselves for various reasons? That many people sometimes remove organs for various reasons? This is a very strange argument. But also, church culture, that society, when the world was run by what the churches say, had an interesting habit of removing people's perfectly functioning organs for various reasons. During the eugenics era, which sadly continues to this day, some undesirables were forcibly sterilized because other people were uncomfortable with their existence. It's a low-key kind of genocide. You take a group that you don't want to exist anymore, and you remove their reproductive organs, and then let them live to death. Almost like all those potential babies don't actually matter.
scriptural way is God wants to change your mind, not your body. Meaning he doesn't want you to go through hormone.
Really? What about all these passages where God comes along and literally changes your body? Or the older stories that the Bible is based on, where gods and goddesses alike come along and literally turn men into women, women into men, and so on and so forth. Some of our oldest writing talks about that, meaning it was happening, it was believed in the churches before there was writing even. It's prehistoric. It's so old. And that, unlike Christianity, is a thing that keeps popping up in culture after culture completely on its own. People realize they are different. And gradually, over generations, they find others like them, they find their voices, and they start talking about how they feel. And most cultures just accept that about them. Or even in a binary culture, being an open trans person is kind of new. It only really started in the 20th century after medical science started to get on board with it. But trans people have always existed. We just used to transition quietly in the background and then never tell anyone. You can find stories all through history of men and women who were treated, for autopsies or whatever after they died, and the examination found that their body parts didn't match how they had lived their lives. All through history. Trans people have always been around. It's just now we're willing to let you see us. Because the goal isn't so much for you to see us, it's for other trans people to see us. The same way I'm visible as an atheist, so other atheists know they're not alone. The same way I'm visible as an intersex person, so other intersex people know they're not alone. Like I felt when I was a kid, when people called me as a child a freak. I thought I was the only one. I didn't have anyone to look to. There was no visibility. So now we try to be visible to be the person that our younger selves needed and couldn't find. The fact Vlad gets to see us too is a great blessing upon his existence.
Therapy or gender reassignment surgery for you to be transformed. You can be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, the part about the title of this video was not misleading. So I've addressed the biblical design that he gave us. We also see the cultural diversity that's being celebrated through transgenderism and how the
If only our culture could trans into a more accepting society, that would be kind of wonderful. It'd be happier for all of us. Maybe our culture is in the closet. I've been saying for a while now that a lot of concepts in psychology are analogous to concepts at the cultural level, in anthropology, in sociology. In some ways, an entire society can be thought of as an individual. In that respect, maybe our society needs to just come out of the closet and accept who it really is.
the health world at least classifies transgenderism as a dysphoria or disorder. But I do believe that there are also demonic deities from different
There we go. Demonic deities. We're getting right to it. Remember, folks, transgenderism isn't just a dog whistle to turn people into an ideology. For some folks like Vlad, it is a link to demonic powers. I wish I had demonic powers. My goodness, if I had demonic powers, I wouldn't need medicine. I could just, use diabolical energies to fix things or something.
different civilizations that have been associated with transgenderism. I'm not coming up with this from the top of my head or because I heard a demon say that, nor do I believe that demons are behind every bush. But I do believe
Are you sure, Vlad? Are you sure there's... Because you just espoused a literal conspiracy theory. All of medical science is lying to everyone because of demons. Sit with that as long as you need to.
believe that, demons are neither male or female. They are still sexual. They cause
That's not biblical. The Bible... Never mind. It's not important.
lust and all of that stuff. So demons are non-binary. They want people to be
If you're non-binary, you're a demon. That almost makes me want to detransition back to non-binary. I'm not going to because I'm fucking fabulous. I put a lot of work into, well, mostly weight loss, but also physical therapy so I can continue to be alive. But also, there's a lot of time and effort that went into, being okay with how I look. These take a minute to grow, for one thing. Just saying. So no, I don't want to detransition, but it's almost tempting just to fuck with Vlad.
like the demons. They want people to be non-binary and fluid in their gender. So it kind of makes sense why they would be in.
As it happens, I have a video that I don't think we're going to get to today because it's also quite long. But just a quick peek over. This person, let me see. I saw the name last night. Hida Viloria. Hida is an intersex person who identifies as gender fluid. A lot of intersex people pick one side or the other for comfort, for ease of use, but some intersex people just, whatever, I'm non-binary and go with androgynous, and that's fine too. Whatever makes you comfortable so you can live your life is fine. But Hida leans into it and embraces gender fluidity, which is kind of neat, in my humble opinion. So stay tuned for that another time.
Interested in imposing that on a culture. Like, for example, if you look at Hinduism, you'll see that there are several Hindu gods who can change gender or show both male and female qualities.
There's also Greek gods that can do that, and Norse gods, because like gods can do whatever the story needs them to do. It's the cool thing about being gods in stories.
This particular god, a mix of Shiva and Parvati, who shows both male and female sides. Bahuchara Mata is a goddess linked to transgender and intersex, especially the Hijra community in India. Lord Vishnu has appeared as a woman in some.
The Hijra community also goes back a very long way, possibly into prehistory. We're not quite sure, but it's been a very long time. The Hijra are a recognized third gender. Cool.
Some stories, like when he becomes Mohini. Hinduism is not the only one. In Greek mythology, we see stories about gods changing genders or.
I want to emphasize this. A lot of people brush aside the fact that the Hijra are a recognized third gender, but here's the thing. India, as a society, has existed as long as history. Their government has changed, their ideas have changed, their languages evolved, their traditions have shifted, some parts have conquered other parts, etc., but they have existed into prehistory. The fact that Hijra is accepted as a third gender has not caused the collapse of their society. The Hijra have been around for thousands of years and have not collapsed their society. So this needs to be stressed. When people like Vlad or people who are just plain hateful and using God as a cover for their beliefs, like Frank Turek, try to tell you that if we allow trans people, if we allow other people to be other genders, or even allow a third gender, even if it's a catch-all category for everything that's not straight up male or female, it'll be the end of our civilization. They're full of shit, because all the historical examples we can point to show that societies do not collapse into the sea when they acknowledge other kinds of people exist, like the Hijra.
Or being both genders at once. Tiresias was a prophet who lived as both a man and a woman at different times. Hermaphroditus was a.
Sure. Tell us about two-spirit people here in North America. That doesn't even come from gods. It's just a thing that people do. It was an acknowledged way to understand gender divergence. Often these people were honored. Now, it varied from tribe to tribe, of course. Every nation had their own understandings, their own traditions. But to a large portion, what we today call two-spirit people were honored. And then we've also got medical reports, case studies going back decades of people who are serial reproducers, meaning you reproduce one way at one phase in your life and you reproduce a different way later in your life. Usually there's an instigational catalyst for this sort of thing, but sometimes it just happens.
A child of Hemris and Aphrodite, and became both male and.
No. The Greek hermaphrodite god is a merger of Hermes and Aphrodite. Unless I may be misremembering. I'll let that one go.
And female after merging with the nymph. Native Americans' cultures have similar things. They have traditions that have special roles for people with different gender identities. Two-spirit is a term used today for.
There we go. Cool. I'm glad Vlad actually did mention it, because this doesn't come from gods. This doesn't come from legend. It's a thing people do. And that's a little different from all these prophets and stories of what gods are doing. And again, I want to emphasize this. The fact that all of these things popped up independently, as opposed to Christianity, which only arose once and has never been independently discovered, it sheds some light on what's true about human nature.
these diverse roles. Gods and spirits in some tribes show traits of both genders. In Norse mythology, Loki, this trickster god, often changes shape and has been both male and female in stories. African mythology. There are gods and spirits in Africa that can change genders or are both male and female, though they vary a lot across different cultures. The one that you probably heard about is Mesopotamia.
Hey, I heard about this one god who is also both male and female. You may have heard of him. He goes by him a lot these days, but he's pretty gender fluid. Most people call him Yahweh. It turns out that when he's talking to this prophet named Moses, he has a glory about him. But at other times and in other texts, he's a she, and he has big old milkers that flow over with sustenance. So, there's that.
And
Also, of course, there's the really strong case that Jesus was probably a trans man if he existed at all, and the story were true, because you can't get a Y chromosome from a ghost.
religion, where they have Ishtar or Inanna, which is a goddess of love and war, sometimes shown with male traits, and her worshippers included rituals that involved changing gender roles.
The gender roles as the way we understand them today is not the same as they were done in ancient Babylon. The texts describe changes of sex. We assume that they're talking about gender roles, that you go through a ritual and the divine light shines upon you, and now you are ritually the other gender, assuming a gender binary, which didn't even obtain at the time, but never mind that. But what the tablets actually describe is a change of sex. But details.
Ishtar was a sorcerer, and she would alter people's affections, passions, and at times even their essence, who they are. She was linked to planets Venus, and she was called as a morning star, but also an evening star. So you see the duality. She would be love yet war. She would be a naked woman and armed soldier. She was the
Well, there's a bit more to it than that. One of the primary reasons people go to war, not the reasons they're given, not the decisions politicians make, but the reasons people join their military voluntarily, is out of love. They want to defend their loved ones against what they perceive to be a threat to their loved ones.
embodiment of male and female. And history tells us that she had the ability to turn men into a woman and a woman into a man. Her priests would appear as women, cross-dressers, and transvestites, non-binary, bigender, and androgynous. Now, Rabbi John.
Again, all of these are modern terms that didn't exist at the time. We didn't need excuses and extra reasons layered on top of things. A person could just be who they are. You could say, hey, nice to meet you. I'm a woman. What are you? People could just self-identify, because how else would you know? Right-handed Sith says, according to Google, in Greek mythology, Hermaphroditus was the child of the messenger god Hermes and the goddess of love Aphrodite. His name is a blend of the parents' names. He is best known as a minor deity of androgyny and intersexuality. Cool. It's rare that the gods have children together instead of, reproducing with mortals, isn't it?
Jonathan Kahn, in his book, The Return of the Gods, talked about this Ishtar. He dedicated a whole chapter to it and talked about how her real goal, this demonic principality that wasn't only active in
demonic principality. First of all, sir, she is a goddess, so it would be a princessipality. But also demonic. Remember, the being that Vlad worships is all about blood and sacrifices and apocalypses. But tell me how the people who just want to throw flowers and change their gender expression is the demonic one?
in Mesopotamia, but still being active in our generation today. It's not just a figment of these people's imagination, but it's actually like a demon, a principality. And he would argue that this deity, the principality, would seek to alter the definition of male and female, nullify the distinctions between the two, transform the nature of man and woman, feminize all that is male, and masculinize all that is female, turn a man into a woman and a woman into a man, to declare a war.
Wouldn't that be neat though? Because like, I don't know about y'all, but in high school, a lot of the kids would talk about how cool it would be if they woke up one morning and were the other sex under that presumption of a binary. Like, so many of the boys would talk about how they would never stop touching their boobs. And so many of the girls would talk about how the first thing they would do is go pee in a toilet standing up. Now, maybe they wouldn't be happy staying that way, but the fact no one had a negative reaction to the possibility of switching indicates that there's some level of fluidity within the human psyche. Perhaps. We should do a survey about it sometime.
Or on the sanctity of sexuality and gender by confusing the two and merging the one into the other and the other one into the one, and by doing so, seek to nullify them. She would first appear at the
Is it about nullifying gender or sex? Because like, it seems to me that Christian mythology is all about recreating a single flesh. So maybe that was her goal too, perhaps.
fringes of society where Ishtar was known to have dwelled. But then it would come into the mainstream and begin penetrating every part of culture, leaving almost
Penetrating.
no facet of life untouched. And how true is that today right in front of our eyes? For those of you who would think that, what science teaches us, what basic biology teaches us, and what scripture teaches us, that your identity is connected to your sex at birth, and if that's...
Isn't it interesting how what science teaches us, what basic biology teaches us, and what scripture teaches us are different things? Fascinating, isn't it?
Somehow old-fashioned, or that's somehow being stuck in the 1800s, and we need to kind of get on with the program and follow the trend. Well, transgenderism is not new. This has been very deeply rooted, and it's been part of a pagan civilizations for a long time.
It's been a part of every civilization for a long time, including the pagan ones. Once again, transgenderism, dog whistle, but trans people have been around for a long time. There was no overarching ideology behind any of this. People were always just people, human beings, who are sometimes, to borrow Vlad's phrase, born in the wrong body. Though that term is also somewhat new. It originated from a natural scientist studying what would eventually become called sexology in the 1860s. Give or take. Maybe we'll get to that later. The ideology part, that's from the psychologists. That's from the sexologists. That's the model understanding why trans people are and how we work. That is new. But the trans people have always been with us. So even giving him the most generous possible interpretation of using that dog whistly word, he's still wrong.
It's new times, but it's the same demons that have really taken right now the mainstream and permeate every part of our culture. Like,
my dude, you still believe in fucking demons. Like, it's not even that you think you have an invisible magic best friend who whispers in your ear and causes a burning in your bosom, but doesn't actually do anything demonstrable in the real world. You go a step further than having an invisible friend that you still believe in, and believe there are fucking demons all over the place. I mean, if it makes you happy, but trying to link that to people's civil rights because you believe in weird supernatural entities. I mean, some people believe in aliens, some people believe in ghosts, some people believe all of these things are the same entities. Hugh Ross thinks they're interdimensional beings. Whatever. Believe it if you want, but if you try to use your wackadoo belief to try to impose how other people should live their lives, now we've got a problem. You would be rather unhappy, Pastor Vlad, if we used my ideas to determine how everyone should be forced to live their lives. I think more people would be happy with my ideas than yours, though, Pastor Vlad. Just saying.
Even if you would look at today, modern cultures that practice transgenderism are closely connected to pagan deities. So let's start with.
Really? Like, what does that even mean? Again, the damn dog whistle. Like, what would that even look like? A culture that practices every child at the age of 12 gets a sex change? Like, what would it mean for a culture to practice it? But whatever. This is just saying most cultures are connected with pagan deities, which is true. Even the European idea of what God looks like is based on heathenry and Norse ideas. Maybe some Greek. It's all pagan, all of it. And paganism just means non-Christian.
First one, the Hydra of India. This is known as a third gender. And these people have been mentioned in the Hindu text. They have been historically revealed. They've held significant power. As of 2014, there's
significant power? The Hydra are still trying to get equal civil rights in India. They're recognized as a third gender, but that doesn't mean they have equal civil rights. There's a lot of discrimination still, even at the governmental level. There is one state in India that formally recognizes equal civil rights for Hydra people, and instituting those policies, enacting the real framework of government to achieve actual equality is still a long way out. They've had to build special housing for homeless Hydra people because it's still legal to discriminate against them in housing. So what do you mean held a great deal of power?
3 million third gender people lived in India. Hydra, often born as a male, but dresses up more feminine. They would undergo castration as a ritual to offer to this goddess of Bahuchara, Mata. So you see, it's pretty.
That may happen for some Hydra, but it isn't like it's a religious cult, membership of which gets you into a different gender. That's like saying there's 3 genders in the United States: men, women, and priests. Like, that doesn't make sense. It's crossing categories.
Closely connected to paganism, the transgenderism. I don't say that every person that is practicing or is a transgender, that they are automatically worshiping this goddess, but
this is another kind of dehumanizing language, saying a transgender instead of a trans person. He's deliberately removing the person part to make us out to be not people. It's unpersoning in an Orwellian sense. Now, it's subtle, and he may not be doing it intentionally because he's picked up this ideology from his culture, but he's still doing it.
Behind the scenes, there are spiritual powers that are at play that we must be aware of. This is not a new trend. This has been as old as civilizations have been happening. It's the perversion of God's design. Anytime we reject the design.
Isn't it weird how God's design is a perversion of the designs of previous gods? Praise Marduk, who, saved the world from Tiamat back in the day and separated the waters from the waters. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Designer. We reject God as the creator. We begin to pervert. You know what happened to Eve in the garden? When she rejected God as Lord, like if you read the Genesis 3 account very closely, you will see that in Genesis 2, God always represents himself as the Lord God, the Lord God. And then Genesis 3, you see that Satan comes to Eve and he says, has God said? He doesn't say the Lord God, but has God said? Because
What's the difference, Vlad? But also not Satan. Genesis is very clear that it's just a serpent. Genesis, one of the few things it's very clear on is that the serpent is just a serpent. Later passages, Revelation, I believe, suggests that Satan is the same as the serpent from Genesis, but even then, it's a metaphor within a metaphor. It's an allegory wrapped in a riddle, surrounded by an enigma in an impenetrable maze of intrigue and mystery. But in Genesis, it's pretty clearly just a serpent. But also, the serpent says, did God say? Cool. So what?
To Satan, God is not his Lord. He doesn't live under his rule. He doesn't live under his principles. He rebels against them. And Eve, took that bite of that lie that, God is God, but, I'm not going to be under his lordship right now. And when
that's a hell of a reach. Genesis also makes it pretty clear that taking the bite of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil gave Eve knowledge of good and evil, which is exactly what was said. So it wasn't a lie. In fact, Yahweh later affirms exactly that when talking to the other gods. Adam and Eve have to be kicked out of the garden because they've eaten from the fruit of knowledge of good and evil and now understand good and evil and have become like us, the other gods. So God is affirming that's exactly what happened. What the serpent said was true.
you begin to step away from the lordship of God in your life, guess what begins to follow? What God calls evil, we say, well, this is not that bad. And we begin to redefine. When we rebel against God, we redefine what good and what is evil.
So this is the main thrust of the argument. By rebelling against what Vlad tells you is good and evil, the way you should live your life, you're also, by association, rebelling against God himself. Now, again, I'm an atheist. I don't care what the magic book says, but I could still be a Christian and reject what Vlad says, because what Vlad says is not the same as what God says. I can reject Vlad all day, and in fact, if I'm following what God says, I have an obligation to reject what Vlad says. Doing this whole, what I say is the same as what God says, that is blasphemy. That is the original definition of blasphemy. He's a heretic. The ancient church would burn him at the stake. Now, I'm not calling for him to be burned at the stake. I'm saying that even if you choose to be a Christian, you shouldn't listen to Vlad. All right, that's enough of him for today. We're getting into the weeds of this demonism and so forth. You get the general idea. And again, partial credit to Vlad for doing some research, even if it's a little bit misapplied. He does a better job than Frank Turek. I will give him that. But still, as always, there's so much more we could get into, and there's never enough time. Maybe I just do too thorough a job. I don't know. There's a Helen Joyce video. It's a short one that I kind of wanted to get to today because it fact-checking it relies on some of the same sources I pulled up today. I'm a little on the fence about it. So I'm going to play a quick promo for another cool event coming up soon. And probably I think we should wrap up. We're already over 2 hours. There will be more for another time. So I'll play the quick promo and then we'll outro.
Are you an atheist, agnostic, humanist, free thinker, or someone who's just not sure? You're in luck.
Around here, that can feel kind of lonely sometimes. But if you haven't heard of NanoCon, the Nashville Nuns Convention yet, congrats. You just found your people.
It's an awesome convention near Nashville, Tennessee, at a beautiful state park, headlined by some of the biggest names in the secular community. And there are a ton of interesting things to choose from.
There are over 20 workshops and panels to choose from, and a genuinely good time to be had at a gorgeous lakeside lodge that's ours for the entire weekend.
NanoCon is held just outside of Nashville at the amazing Montgomery Bell State Park. The full event runs from Friday, July 31st through Sunday, August 2nd.
Come for a full weekend of community, educational talks, and so much fun, like the Magic Show by Matt Dillahunty, or just show up on Saturday for main programming.
There are only 300 tickets to go around, so go to www.nanocon.rocks and get your tickets so you can come celebrate NanoCon's 10th anniversary with other heathens like me.
All right, so that's the latest promo. There's a couple. I'm pretty fond of them, especially since I got a speaking role in this one, just like I have a speaking role in NanoCon. So you should come. It's at the end of July, July 31st through August 2nd. Even though traveling is very hard for me, I'm still going to be there, and I hope to see some of you there too. So just throwing that out there. There's a lot to this. There's a lot of different ideas wrapped up in this concept of transgenderism. But I think we've illustrated today. I really want to do that Helen Joyce bit. Oh, it's so tempting. You know what? This time will leave me wanting more. My goodness. Thank you all so much for joining. If you're joining us later, if you're coming along partway through the broadcast, and if you're new, please remember to hit the subscribe button before you go. It helps a lot, and it would be cool if you could join us next time, because we'd love to see you in the live chat. That goes double if you're watching in the future. I appreciate all of you for being here, for participating, for interacting, for correcting me when I get historical bits wrong. It's one of the coolest things about doing lives, is the interaction. Being here with you people. It's kind of what's been keeping me going, to be honest. And I very much appreciate it. So thank you all so much for being here. Oh, it's a busy week. I've done a show every day on some channel or another, and that's going to keep going for a while. Tomorrow is the debate review with Mark Reed. That'll be in the evening here on this channel. Sunday, I'll be on Skeptic Haven with Jess from How to Rule an Asteroid. We're doing solstice shenanigans. So call in with all your various gods and tell us why we should believe in them. It should be pretty neat. And I don't know after that off the top of my head. We'll see. But also stay tuned for more of these, because like I just said, there's a lot more to talk about. Until next time, try not to die. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for May, Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Maya Adkisson, Robin Webster, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Thriver Scapegoat, Katie Bluebird, Noise Ending, The Godless Engineer, Secular Feelinist, and Elira the Free. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which also includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.